Imagine a philosopher who challenged the very foundations of morality and society. Friedrich Nietzsche saw human weakness and strength so clearly that his ideas continue to reshape the thinking of millions. He predicted cultural shifts that most people hadn't even suspected. Friedrich Nietzsche wasn't just a philosopher. He was a mind-blowing force that cut through the darkness of conventional morality like lightning in the night. Born in 1844 in a small German village, where silence and routine seemed like the natural order, he carried within him an energy capable of overturning entrenched ideas about life and humanity. His insights were staggering. He could see human weaknesses and strengths with astonishing clarity, predicting cultural shifts that most people hadn't even imagined. Nietzsche didn't just write, he challenged society itself. He mocked conventional values as if standing before a mirror, showing us that most people live in illusions. His famous declaration, "God is dead," hit like thunder, first shocking, then provoking deep thought, and finally refusing to let go. Psychologically, Nietzsche is fascinating. He combined profound intuition with analytical skill, almost like a chess master anticipating his opponent's moves, but in life and culture. His mental landscape was full of contrasts, a brilliant mind capable of profound understanding of human nature, yet a man who struggled with inner crises, loneliness, and misunderstanding. From a psychological perspective, Nietzsche was a classic introvert with a highly analytical mind, able to detect patterns where others saw only chaos. He could control his emotions, turning inner turmoil into a tool for observation and analysis. This combination makes him psychologically compelling. We see not only his ideas, but also the mechanics of how his mind worked, how he read people and culture as if opening a book no one else could understand. Nietzsche also wielded sarcasm expertly. He wasn't afraid to speak bluntly, sometimes with sharp irony, mocking those who considered themselves wise while blindly following the herd. This sarcasm is also a tool for engagement. It keeps the audience alert, involved, because any sentence could shift their worldview. In his works, we constantly see contrasts at play: human weakness and strength, light and darkness in morality, freedom and restriction. Through these contrasts, we begin to understand why his ideas still stir strong emotions. They awaken internal conflicts while offering keys to understand them. Nietzsche teaches us to look deeper, notice the details that usually escape attention, and not fear facing truths that contradict what we once believed. And applied to life, observe yourself and others without illusions, but with sharp awareness. Learn to spot hidden motives, even where they seem absent. Don't be afraid to question norms and your own beliefs, but do so with clear logic. Practice separating emotion from analysis, watch your reactions, and seek patterns. And finally, cultivate a sense of humor and irony as a tool for critical thinking. It keeps the mind sharp and helps resist herd mentality. Nietzsche's mind was not just sharp, it was a storm, constantly observing, analyzing, and questioning. Imagine a person who can see the invisible threads connecting human behavior, culture, and morality, and then pull them apart with the precision of a surgeon. That was him. He didn't just think, he dissected life itself. Every idea, every custom, every moral rule passed through his lens of critique. The result? Concepts that still shock and challenge us today. He had an uncanny ability to notice patterns where others only saw randomness. Psychologically, Nietzsche was an intense observer, the kind who reads between the lines in every conversation, every social interaction. He could sense pretension, deceit, or unspoken fear almost instantly, and he often used that perception to sharpen his arguments. It's as if he was playing a game of chess with society, always 3 moves ahead. This foresight made him both admired and feared by contemporaries. Some found him inspiring, others deeply unsettling. But Nietzsche was more than intellect. He embraced contradictions within himself. He was deeply empathetic, yet emotionally reserved, aware of human suffering, yet detached enough to analyze it coldly. This duality made his philosophy alive. He wasn't theorizing in a vacuum. He was applying his insights to the raw, chaotic world around him. It's also why his writings feel personal, almost conversational, even when discussing grand ideas about humanity. His use of metaphor and allegory wasn't just literary flair, it was a psychological tool. By framing abstract concepts as vivid images, Nietzsche made his ideas memorable and emotionally resonant. He painted morality as a battlefield, the individual as a warrior facing invisible chains. He didn't just describe reality, he transformed it into a mental arena where the reader could engage, question, and struggle. That engagement is a key part of why his philosophy endures. It forces active thinking rather than passive reading. He also had a streak of strategic cunning in his communication. Nietzsche knew how to provoke, how to plant a question that would linger long after the reader had put the book down. That's why his work still sparks debates, blogs, podcasts, and discussions centuries later. This strategic insight, anticipating the reaction of others, is a core lesson in understanding psychology, observing patterns, predicting behavior, and influencing thought through carefully chosen ideas. From his life, we can take practical lessons. First, train your mind to see connections others miss. Look beyond surface appearances. Analyze motives and consequences in daily life. Second, embrace your contradictions. They are often sources of strength, not weakness. Third, communicate ideas with clarity and impact, using metaphor and vivid imagery to make abstract concepts tangible. Fourth, anticipate outcomes before acting. Consider human reactions as part of the equation. Fifth, cultivate an internal sense of challenge and curiosity. Question norms, explore uncomfortable truths, and don't fear confronting contradictions. Nietzsche's psychology is a masterclass in self-awareness, critical thinking, and strategic perception. By observing him, we learn not just philosophy, but methods of navigating the complex human world, recognizing subtle dynamics, harnessing personal insight, and transforming observation into understanding. Even today, decades after his death, his mind serves as a reminder that thinking deeply, challenging assumptions, and engaging fully with the world can create a legacy that outlives you. Nietzsche didn't just observe the world, he felt it. His attention to the nuances of human psychology was astonishing. He could sense the mood of a room, anticipate someone's reaction, and understand the hidden motives driving people. This wasn't mere intellect, it was almost a super sensitivity to human nature. Many of his contemporaries noted that it was impossible to lie around him. He could see right through you. Nietzsche's philosophy often reads like a battle with himself. He didn't seek easy answers. He dug deep, exploring the contradictions within both people and society. His psychological approach was built on recognizing weaknesses and strengths simultaneously. He understood that true power lies not only in physical or social dominance, but also in the ability to acknowledge your fears and limitations, and then turn them to your advantage. He placed enormous emphasis on free will and personal responsibility. Nietzsche believed that each person is responsible for their own understanding of morality, for their life, and for the choices they make. He didn't offer ready-made solutions. He challenged, provoking thought, debate, and personal discovery. That's what makes his psychology so unique. It doesn't instruct, it awakens thinking. Nietzsche was also a master of strategic thinking. He understood how ideas spread, how they influence people, and how perception can be shaped through words. His aphorisms, paradoxical statements, and bold hypotheses were not just style. They were tools to capture attention and guide thought. He knew how to immerse a reader in an intellectual game where each step forward mattered, or else you'd fall behind. Practical lessons from his life and mind. First, learn to observe and analyze the motives of others, noticing what lies beneath the surface. Second, use your own contradictions as a resource rather than a weakness. Third, treat your ideas as tools of influence. Express them clearly, convincingly, and emotionally. Fourth, develop strategic thinking. Anticipate people's reactions and the consequences of your actions. Fifth, don't shy away from difficult questions or discomfort. Seek truth even where it is unpleasant or contradictory. Nietzsche teaches that understanding human psychology is not just science, it's an art. The art of observing, analyzing, influencing, and yet remaining honest with yourself. His approach inspires attentiveness, strategy, and courage in thought, not just in action. Friedrich Nietzsche understood that ideas can be more powerful than any weapon. He didn't just write books, he crafted concepts that reshaped society's perception. His philosophy challenged established norms and morality, revealing how little people notice their own limitations. People tend to repeat ideas without thinking, and Nietzsche confronted this passivity, pushing for independent thought. His observations of culture and human behavior were astonishingly precise. He could foresee which values would crumble and which would serve as the foundation for future generations. But Nietzsche never delivered instructions or recipes. His ideas are an invitation to reflection, an intellectual game where each person must decide what matters and how to live. Nietzsche's philosophy is deeply tied to personal freedom and development. He spoke of the overman, someone who can transcend conventional morality and social pressure by understanding themselves and their motives. This isn't an abstract concept. It's a tool for analyzing your life, weaknesses, and strengths. Self-awareness, he showed, is the key to personal power and influence. His strategy for impacting the world was both subtle and powerful. Through metaphors, aphorisms, and provocative statements, he made people think, debate, and argue. He understood how mass psychology works through emotions, expectations, and beliefs, and he used these mechanisms masterfully. Every statement, every paradoxical thesis, was designed for maximum influence on the reader. 5 practical takeaways from this block. Notice the ideas around you and analyze their influence on your thinking and actions. Don't be afraid to question societal norms and expectations. It strengthens critical thinking. Use your observations and experiences as tools for self-understanding and inner strength. Learn to express your thoughts and ideas clearly and emotionally to make an impact. Treat contradictions and difficult questions as sources of growth, not threats. Nietzsche demonstrates that the power of ideas lies not only in their originality, but also in the ability to wield them, in your own thinking and your influence on others. His philosophy inspires strategic, attentive, and courageous thinking, helping you understand yourself and the psychology of the world around you. This thinker was never by the book. He viewed the world through the lens of internal struggle, constantly engaging in dialogue with himself. Life and ideas were an ongoing experiment with the human psyche, morality, and culture. Anyone who fails to recognize their inner conflicts can never fully understand the external world. He emphasized that weakness fosters submission, while strength allows one to overcome societal limitations and expectations. Many follow conventional wisdom not because it is right, but because they fear true freedom. This slave mentality restricts potential. True strength comes only through conscious choice and inner confrontation. Imagine a mind capable of foreseeing how morality and culture would evolve decades into the future. He didn't merely analyze the present, that he read the future of human consciousness, uncovering hidden tendencies and weaknesses. His personality combined the traits of an observer, strategist, and revolutionary. He never accepted the world as it was. He constantly sought ways to transform it through the power of ideas. Against superficial thinking and convenient illusions, he fought sharply and systematically. Every decision and thought was a step toward self-knowledge. Real growth emerges through painful insights and facing one's fears. Studying his methods of thought teaches how to recognize internal limitations and discover paths to overcome them. Language was a tool of influence. His aphorisms cut deep, forcing people to confront their beliefs and habits. To change thinking, emotions must be engaged, internal conflict stirred, and alternatives offered. That is why his ideas continue to spark debate and resonance. They disturb, demand reflection, and require action. Notice your inner conflicts and use them as a source of strength and self-understanding. Question habitual beliefs. This trains critical thinking and independence. Develop the ability to spot hidden patterns around you. Anticipate consequences of actions and ideas. Use language and thought as tools of influence, first on yourself, then on others. Embrace discomfort as a necessary element of growth. Only through tension and confronting fears is true strength formed. The psychology revealed here shows that personal freedom and inner power don't come automatically. They must be cultivated through constant analysis, understanding of weaknesses and opportunities. A person can not only live in the world, but also shape its structure, creating their own rules and standards. Few minds have been as daring in thought as his. He wasn't content with surface observations. He aimed for the core of human existence, searching for truths others avoided. While most philosophers explained the world, he sought to transform it. His vision was radical, not just predicting changes, but exposing the frameworks that govern society, morality, and personal identity. The intensity of his thinking was unmatched. He approached life as a battlefield, where ideas clashed and beliefs were constantly tested. Ordinary reasoning could not contain his insights. They demanded expansion of the mind and courage to see uncomfortable truths. It's in this relentless pursuit that his genius emerges. He consistently challenged assumptions, deconstructed norms, and forced both himself and others to confront what had been ignored or taken for granted. He was deeply aware of the tension between individual freedom and societal expectation. Society values comfort, routine, and conformity, often at the expense of personal growth. He understood that true mastery over life requires enduring isolation, questioning everything, and embracing solitude to cultivate independent thinking. Those who shy away from these challenges remain trapped in the cycle of mediocrity. Imagine a philosopher whose work continues to influence art, literature, psychology, and ethics long after his time. His mind was a laboratory, experimenting with concepts of power, morality, and human potential. He dissected weakness and strength, observing patterns in human behavior that many never even notice. Such acute awareness enables a person to operate strategically, anticipate outcomes, and transform limitations into opportunities. One of the most remarkable traits was his ability to reconcile extremes: intellect and emotion, creation and destruction, brilliance and madness. This tension made his thought both profound and accessible to those willing to engage deeply. He wasn't just a thinker, he was an experience, provoking reactions, igniting debates, and inspiring courage to question everything that feels given. The psychological portrait here reveals a mind that thrived on pushing boundaries. While some feared conflict or complexity, he welcomed it, understanding that clarity emerges only through struggle. His insight into human nature and societal constructs gives us a framework to examine our own motivations, biases, and habits. Applying his approach means daring to face uncomfortable truths and remaining unafraid to act on the insights gained. Practical lessons from this block: embrace intellectual courage. Seek out ideas and truths that challenge your comfort zone. Use solitude as a tool for clarity and self-reflection. Recognize societal pressures and consciously decide which to follow and which to resist. Observe human behavior deeply. Patterns reveal opportunities for personal growth and strategic action. Transform inner tension and contradictions into sources of strength and creativity. Through examining his life and thought, we learn that influence is not a product of luck or charisma alone. It is a combination of relentless observation, bold ideas, and the courage to challenge the prevailing norms. His legacy demonstrates that lasting impact requires embracing complexity, facing inner and outer struggles, and persistently seeking a higher vision for humanity. Understanding the psychology behind such a revolutionary thinker allows us to not only appreciate his genius, but also to reflect on our own capacity for transformation. By observing his strategies, we can develop a more profound awareness of our potential, limitations, and the forces that shape our choices. In essence, this final reflection challenges us to think more deeply, act more boldly, and live in a way that is authentic to our values rather than dictated by conformity. Each lesson gleaned from his life is a doorway to greater self-mastery, strategic thinking, and intellectual resilience.